Welcome. Picture a thriving restaurant, the food, the service, the energy. But buried beneath that surface, success is a single piece of paper that may actually determine whether this business survives or dies: the lease. In today's restaurant environment, where labor, food, and operating costs continue to rise, your lease isn't just a formality. It's a $2 to $5 million commitment that quietly controls your financial destiny for a decade or more. Did you know that 60% of restaurants close within their first 3 years? And here's the thing: the difference between success and failure often traces directly back to clauses in a document signed in optimistic ignorance on day one. So let's pull back the curtain. This isn't about renting space. It's about controlling risk, protecting margin, and transforming your lease from a liability into your greatest strategic asset. Here's the tension. Research shows that 60% of restaurants fail within their first 3 years, and it's rarely the food. It's the math. As we head into 2026, operating costs are rising 4 to 6% annually, while margins are shrinking. Your occupancy costs, ideally kept between 6 and 10% of revenue, become one of the few variables you can actually control. But here's the problem: hidden lease clauses can push that number far higher without you even noticing. And when your margins are already razor thin, even a few extra percentage points can mean the difference between thriving and shutting your doors. The foundation of every financial decision you make is your physical location. If that foundation, the lease, is cracked, the whole house eventually collapses. The difference between generational wealth and bankruptcy is often hiding in clauses you've never read closely. So where exactly is value being extracted, and how? Most operators negotiate base rent and square footage and think they've won. But the real profit killers live in the fine print. First, common area maintenance charges, or CAM. Landlords bury capital improvements, administrative fees, and property marketing inside these charges, expenses that should be their responsibility. A restaurant paying $8,000 in base rent can face an additional $2,000 to $3,000 in CAM, a 25 to 40% hidden rent increase. Second, percentage rent clauses. Once your sales cross a breakpoint, your reward for operational excellence becomes higher rent, essentially a tax on success. For a restaurant doing $300,000 in monthly sales, this can add nearly $8,000 to your monthly bill. And third, exclusivity clauses. Poorly negotiated language can trap you, restricting growth, limiting menu flexibility, or blocking you from opening nearby locations. Together, these three mechanisms can drain 15 to 25% from your bottom line if left unchecked. Here's the good news: you have powerful negotiation levers available, and they cost nothing to deploy while delivering 6- and 7-figure value. Let me walk you through the framework. First, tenant improvement allowances. Demand partial advance payments to reduce capital exposure, retain contractor selection rights, and exclude the allowance from percentage rent calculations. A well-structured $120,000 allowance can represent $30,000 to $50,000 in real economic advantage. Second, percentage rent breakpoints. If you can't eliminate percentage rent entirely, engineer artificial breakpoints above natural calculations. Push from $166,000 to $200,000 or higher. Implement tiered rates that decrease as you succeed: 6, then 5, then 4%. Exclude low-margin revenue like catering and delivery from calculations entirely. Third, lease structure. Avoid triple net leases with unlimited escalation exposure. Negotiate modified gross structures with explicit expense caps and clear landlord obligations for structural maintenance. And fourth, protective clauses. Continuous operation limitations that allow dark periods for renovation, assignment rights that preserve your exit strategy, and options for renewal, expansion, or early termination. These provisions transform your lease from a trap into a strategic asset. So what does strategic negotiation actually deliver in hard numbers? Across a standard 10-year restaurant lease, total occupancy costs can exceed $2 million. Base rent, CAM charges, and percentage rent compounding year after year. Now here's where it gets powerful. A skilled negotiator who improves those total terms by just 5% delivers over $100,000 in measurable value. Better CAM caps, higher breakpoints, smarter TI structures, and the investment? Professional fees of just $5,000 to $15,000, a 10 to 20 times return. But the impact goes further. Optimizing your TI allowance structure alone can unlock 30 to 50,000 in real economic value through reduced financing costs, faster opening timelines, and preserved working capital. What looks like a minor clause today becomes a six-figure swing over time. In an industry defined by tight margins, that difference isn't cosmetic. It's operational breathing room, reinvestment capital, and survival insurance. Now let's talk about something operators rarely factor into lease negotiations: operational flexibility. In 2026, consumer preferences are shifting rapidly toward convenience, value, and experience. That means patios, delivery infrastructure, ghost kitchen capabilities, and flexible hours. But yesterday's rigid lease agreements prohibit these adaptations. Standard continuous operation clauses can force you to stay open even when you're bleeding money. Restrictive use clauses can block you from pivoting your concept. An absence of signage provisions can prevent you from participating in third-party delivery platforms. A strategically negotiated lease builds in the right to add outdoor seating, pause operations for renovation without default, modify your menu within broad categories, and extend hours as demand evolves. These provisions cost nothing to request up front, but provide invaluable competitive capacity as the market shifts. In a cost-constrained, modest growth environment, your lease terms quite literally determine survival versus profitability. This brings us to the fundamental paradigm shift that separates successful operators from struggling ones. Your lease isn't just a cost to be minimized. It's a strategic asset that can build generational wealth or become your most devastating liability. The distinction between restaurants that build lasting value and those that struggle traces back to a single document, often signed without the scrutiny it demands. But here's the transformation. When you approach negotiations strategically, with qualified representation and a clear framework, you convert your physical location from a fixed cost liability into a profit center. Secure renewal options and expansion rights. Negotiate assignment terms that preserve your exit strategy. Cap your personal guarantee exposure. Obtain non-disturbance protections that safeguard your investment if ownership changes. Ensure every verbal promise is captured in enforceable written language. When you partner with experts who understand both restaurant operations and commercial real estate law, you stop absorbing hidden transfers of wealth and start building a lease that works for your business, not against it. So what do you do next? Here is your 5-step action plan. Step 1. Engage qualified representation before you even start viewing properties. Assemble your professional team: a specialized real estate attorney, a tenant representation broker, and a financial advisor who understands restaurant economics. This team typically delivers 10 to 20 times their cost in improved lease terms. Step 2. Model multiple scenarios. Don't negotiate on best-case projections. Understand exactly how your lease performs if revenue hits 70% of expectations and if it exceeds 130%. Build a lease that supports survival in difficult environments while preserving equity in good ones. Step 3. Request and analyze comparable leases. Ask landlords for anonymized leases from similar tenants to establish market baselines for rent, CAM charges, TI allowances, and standard terms. Comparable evidence strengthens every position at the table. Step 4. Prioritize terms over base rent. A $500 monthly reduction saves $60,000 over 10 years, but a well-negotiated TI allowance, CAM cap, and percentage rent structure can deliver $200,000 or more in total value. Focus your energy accordingly. Step 5. Document everything. Every landlord representation, promised improvement, and agreed modification must appear in the final executed lease. Verbal assurances carry zero legal weight. Your lease is a multi-million-dollar asset class negotiation, not a formality. Negotiate it strategically, protect your margins, and build a legacy that lasts. Connect with Forks for the experienced accounting professionals your restaurant needs. Details in description below.